Stand by. Stand by for testes. I'm not hearing anything yet either.
What about now?
Actually, I am getting noise from myself. Stand by for testes. Stand by. Yep, I got it. Stand by for testes. Yep, I got stand by for testes.
Awesome.
How about for you? I don't know yet.
Let's hope I don't have a major echo like I normally do. So yeah, this is basically, since this is our show back and my youngest son has been using my studio computer for his schooling, this is making things a little bit difficult, trying to get things back into order. Do we hear any echo?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome.
Tim Greer chimes in. Hey, Deborah, free. How you doing? Can you hear us all? You might as well ask somebody's a listener, right?
Anyways, so like I was saying, we have Amy Sciarretto from Atom Splitter PR. What's happening, Amy? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for actually for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Right. You know, I kind of went ahead and I pirated one of your pictures to post in the bottom right hand corner of over where you're supposed to be at in the video. So
oh, I know. I'm sorry because that's like it's late and I was like I washed my face already.
So you know, this is a little bit different for us. Usually we have bands on and we have you know, local musicians on and stuff like that, but you know, I reached out to you here, about 4 or 5 months ago, just, you know, out of the blue, just, hey, can we have such and such on the show? And I think we went back and forth a little bit before we finally, you know, I finally, you know, stopped bugging you.
You're not bugging me.
So, yeah, but you know, then it dawned on me. I was like, you know what? You know, let's go with that side of the business, you know, and see how, you know, things are on, you know, the PR side. You know, how many bands do you actually work with?
Yeah,
it's a lot. We are very busy always. It depends. Like a lot of we were. It's usually like around 40 or 50. However, things kind of fluctuate and shift because some of our bands are super active all the time. Some are active for like 2 years and then they'll go and make another record or they're touring. Things are obviously different at the moment because of the pandemic. So a lot of our bands have been even busier and keeping us even busier than when they're on the road because they're all producing content and they're all doing interviews and they're all spending more time doing the things that we like them to do, which is interact with media. And it just depends. Like some bands we work with permanently all the time, bands like Trivium, Killswitch Engage, of Mice and Men, In This Moment, bands like that, Hatebreed. We work with them, all the time. And then there's bands that sometimes we just work with for 6 months or 3 months, or we help them through certain periods. So it really depends. But most of the bands we work with, I've worked with for many years since I worked at Roadrunner Records. They all kind of came with me, and I still work with a bunch of them to this day. So we handle, it's not just me, it's me, Mike, Tim, Monique, and Seth. It's the team. So there's a lot of us with our hands in all these pots.
Okay. So, I mean, now, do you, I mean, with, with that team, I mean, do you guys all divvy up all of the bands, like the 50 plus bands that you work with, or is that just, is that just you that works with those particular
No,
bands?
everybody is, there's certain things that there might be an artist that I might have, like I might talk to all the time. So I spend a little more time setting things up. Or if there's an artist that that has specific press protocol or criteria, and Tim or Mike work with some of those outlets a little bit more, they'll lead on things. But we all work on everything together. I mean, it's my company, but and I'm ultimately responsible for everything, but so are they, because they work for me and for the company. So we all like have relationships with the media, different tiers of media. So we all work on everything. There's so many bands in that if we have, if Tim or Mike has a relationship with a certain influencer or a reaction channel or a writer, an editor, and, they can just jump in and say, hey, I'll pitch that person for this artist. So we all have our hands in them. Certain things, some of us will focus on certain areas, but we're all involved. It has to be that way. We're just so busy, but we're really organized, and things like Slack and Evernote, these systems that we use on the back end, that keeps us really organized and knowing what everybody's doing. Text message, really great. Group text message. So we're all very plugged into what each other are doing.
It's good.
Yeah, you have to be.
We know a few things about group chats here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've got a pretty hefty group chat of our own going. So, so how exactly did you get into doing what you're doing?
Well, the Reader's Digest version that I try to tell people is, I always knew what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be the person backstage with the headset and the clipboard making things happen. I didn't have the talent or the ambition to be on the stage performing. So but I knew I wanted to be there. And I would sometimes watch like the MTV VMAs, and sometimes I would cut to commercial. You would see people running around backstage with headsets and making things happen and grabbing artists and doing things. And I said, God, I want that to be me. I just always thought that was fascinating. So when I was in high school and college, I just was very proactive, and I wrote for local music magazines. I interned for a magazine. I worked at my school radio station. I ran it, and then I just would go to New York all the time, because I grew up right outside of Philly. So I would go see shows in New York, and I would write for like skateboarding and music magazines. There was tons of those, and through that, I just met people that worked in the music industry. And when I graduated college, I worked at this publication called CMJ, which was the college music journal. And I was the metal editor there when I got hired right out of college. And it was my favorite job I've ever had, because I got to write about metal and listen to metal all day and go to shows. Like I would go to 5 shows a night, and I look back now and I'm like, what was I thinking? Well, I was 21, and the body had a lot less miles on it, and I could do all that stuff, and I could get home at 2:00 in the morning and it ain't no thing. And now I'm like, oh my God, I need to be in bed by 11. I need to be home before the next day. So I just through that I worked at CMJ, and it was an out of college job. I couldn't work there forever, even though I loved it. And I 3 years after at CMJ, I took the job at Roadrunner in the radio department. I actually was offered 2 jobs there, and I went with the radio job. And I worked there, and then they switched me to the press department in the middle of my time working there. And I was there for, I think, like I say it was like almost 12 or 13 years. And it was that was probably really truly the best job I ever had, because, I worked there for an amount of time where I became the adult that I am. And I worked with very closely for many, many years with Slipknot, Nickelback, Trivium, Killswitch Engage, Devil Driver, Machine Head, Dragon Force, tons and tons of awesome bands that I love. So and then some of them I still work with. So
Brad's a huge Nickelback fan, by the way.
You know what? People hate on Nickelback so hard, but we had great dental insurance because of them. And I never had any bad experiences with Chad Kroeger. He was always great to me. You know, he had a reputation, but any experience I ever had with him, he was always easy to work with and kind. I never had any issues with him. So, and through my time there, I worked with Meatloaf because he put out a record through a Roadrunner imprint called Loud and Proud. So that was definitely a really unique time because when I first started at Roadrunner, bands like Fear Factory and Sepultura, Typo Negative, Cold Chamber, they were all on like their last records, and bands like Slipknot and Trivium and Killswitch, Glassjaw, they were all coming in on their first record. So I got to work in a transition time there with bands that I absolutely loved, and it was a time and place that'll never be repeated. But it was definitely I could probably write a book about crazy things I saw, did, heard, said, and happened.
I'm a fan of about like 99% of the bands you just mentioned.
You are a fan of
between Type Negative and Fear Factory. I think I saw I think on either the same tour or the different tour in Tampa. And I think Fear Factory was just, I think they opened up for Megadeth one year.
I'm sure they did.
Oh my God, it was just an amazing show.
Yeah, that's, that was one of the first big bands that I worked with when I started there, them in Cold Chamber at the time. And, it was great. There was so many great bands. Max Cavalera, I mean, I worked with him on multiple projects over almost 2 decades.
He's an amazing guy. I met him once, and whenever he was down here with Soulfly, and just amazing dude. I mean, just would give you the world, give you the shirt off his back.
Very, very good dude. He was very just anything you asked him to do, he would do it. And that was always pleasant in the job that I do. You have artists that don't want to do what you want them to do. They don't want to do another interview, or they want to cancel it, or they want to do something else, or they've already done 5 interviews that day, but you're like, but I need you to do the 6th one. So he was always the one who would do the 7th interview. He would do everything you asked him to, and with a smile. So that I have plenty of fond memories of working with Max.
Nice. Yeah. I know that, I mean, here with our show, and I've listened to quite a few different podcasts, especially over the last year since I started this one. And I know that there's a lot of people that structure their podcast almost exactly like the next one. So, I mean, I try to keep mine as, ours as, what's that?
Variety. We have variety here. We have fun ours.
Yeah, we try to keep ours less structured and less scripted, because we want everybody to feel comfortable and at home. Just talking to 2 guys that have been in the scene for years, and
sure.
Not like, hi, my name is Chris. How are you? Yeah, we don't do that here.
Well, conversational is better.
Alexa, play Nickelback.
In 1993, we know that you toured with blah blah blah.
Right? They get that questions all the time. It's bands. I can understand why it's good. I always say like an artist like Adam from Killswitch, he doesn't do much press, and I always tell people, if you're gonna get an interview with him, you better make it fun for him, because he's gonna do it only if he's entertained, because he's crazy that way. And I always say he doesn't do many, and if he's gonna do it, it better be good, and it better make him laugh.
We challenge you on that. We challenge you with that. Okay, first off, I'm a Marine, and 2, I'm crazy. So 3, get us an interview with Adam, and I will show you.
Crazy. Some of the criteria right there.
Yep, we sure do.
I would put a guy in a monkey suit on a skateboard for all I care.
Oh my gosh. Oh, what about the time that we all wore the hats? We all got different hats because there was a girl that we were interviewing. Yeah,
that's a hat. That's very Jamiroquai-ish, or Alice in Wonderland.
We try to have a lot of fun here on the show. We don't like to keep it, cut and dry.
Yeah,
that shit's boring.
Yeah.
It's funny that you spoke about MTV, because our sign off all the time is the Ricky Rackman sign off all the time. Keep 1 foot in the gutter, 1 fist in the gold. Keep it real, keep it metal. So we'll try to keep.
Brad's a fanboy of him a little bit.
Oh yeah, I follow him on Instagram and stuff. So
stalker.
What was that? Who do you follow all the
Some
time?
guys, some guys. Like,
So, but anyways, so where? I mean, you live in New York right now, right?
I live in New Jersey, right outside of Manhattan. I live like 5 minutes from New York City.
Got to be cold as anything right now.
It is. Yes, I don't mind though. I like cold weather. I have fire for blood, so I like it cold. And I feel like I can't enjoy a hot day unless I've had really cold days, and I can't enjoy cold days unless I've had to deal with hot days. But it has definitely been really pretty cold lately. It sucked, but
I think the closest it was the Bronx down there near Fort Lee.
I know Fort Lee's not very far from here.
Yeah, I did the guys I were talking about earlier before we got on the interview. We did a road case repair for like 45 road cases for Madison Square Garden light and sound guys there. It was fun.
Right on.
Good pay.
Well, that's important too.
We got somebody in our little chat here. Zeke, what's happening, man? Thanks for tuning in. It's always good to have new listeners and new people on here. Carrie Ann, you as well. Thanks for joining.
Hi Zeke. Hi Carrie Ann.
Yeah, Carrie Ann is up in Columbus, and Zeke is over here in Brevard County, where we're at. So, but yeah, I mean, I thought that it was going to be really interesting. I mean, to pick your brain because like I said earlier in the show, that there's a side of the business that people don't actually see. You see the bands up on the stage, and like you had described, your Reader's Digest version there. The person with the headset and the clipboard, that's the person that makes things happen. Yep. And you've been there.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry it took me so long to actually, reach out and invite you, but I mean, I definitely thought that this could be, a unique opportunity for us here at Florida Metal Radio to have you.
No, yeah, I think it's what people don't understand is when people think about publicity or publicists and public relations, they think that that's dealing with the public, but it's not. It's dealing with public image and public perception, because 99% of the bands that I work with, it's about just making sure that the fans and the media, and therefore the fans who consume that content, have a vision and an understanding of the band, and it's presenting them in the right way, and it's making sure that their story and their narrative is told the way they want it to be. And a lot of people, my old roommate used to say to me all the time, like, I would be like, if it would be like 10 o'clock at night and I would get a text because, oh shit, somebody's photo pass isn't at the will call, or somebody just tweeted something stupid and I have to go take care of it. And I would be like, oh, and he's like, there's so many kids that what you're at, like at the Mayhem Festival or at Ozfest, those kids there would be killed to have your job, or killed to see that you have every member of Slipknot in your phone. I'm like, yes, no, I don't take that for granted, but it's also, 10 o'clock on a Thursday night. It's like, it's, and I love it. I don't want to do anything else. So, right. I have accepted for many, many years that it's a lifestyle and not a job. It doesn't end at, 5 o'clock. And I always tell a story how, like, when I started at Roadrunner and I worked in the radio department, they would always, like all of our bands, we'd have Slipknot and Trivium and Killswitch and all our bands, Chimera, on Ozfest. And because we'd have like 5 or 6 bands, and I did radio, and I would deal with all the metal radio shows, but also like some of the regular programmers, they would have like meet and greets set up, and a lot of our radio regionals would be like, families, and they'd be like, they would tell my boss, Dave, can Amy go out to Wisconsin this weekend and cover all the meet and greets? And I would be like, yeah, of course. Like I said, I was 25 at the time. So I'd be like, fuck yeah. So I would go out and I would, be the person that had to make sure that, Corey Taylor was there for his meet and greets, or to make sure that, the promotion got done, and that the radio winners that were allowed to hang out in the Slipknot trailer for the day and be roadie for a day, I had to make sure that somebody was babysitting them. That was my job. Like, I had to make sure all that stuff was taken care of, and I loved it. And there were times where it was really stressful, and I'd be running back and forth at venues trying to find Zach Wilde to get guitars signed and get it to the winners on time before he went on stage or before bus calls. So it was just a crazy experience. And I love it though. It's just, you have to be a really certain type of personality to do it, though, because sometimes you'll see artists when they're, at their worst and at their best. And sometimes they don't want to do these things. And you're like, got to convince them they need to do it. And
Right.
there are times I'd be like, if you don't do this, I'm going to get fired. Please don't make me go. Please don't be the reason that I have to go on the bread line. Thanks. And sometimes that works. Sometimes the sympathy, the pity play sometimes works. But people don't realize that, when you're like, I tell people this too about PR in general, like sometimes not doing interviews and not doing press is also a strategy, because some bands that I work with have been doing press for like 15 years and they're like, I'm doing this, and this, and nothing else. And they draw the line in the sand. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, but why don't we do this? Or I want to do this person a favor. And sometimes they're like, that's not on this and list. And I understand that when you're at a certain level and you've done it all, you have earned the right to have mystique and to be ungettable. But a lot of our bands aren't like that. Most of our bands are like, they're hungry to talk to anybody. We have a lot of developing bands that they'll talk to anybody and everybody, and they should. So it's just a matter of, but each band has protocol and each band has rules and criteria on what they will and won't do. And sometimes I have to be the bad cop and say no, even though I might not want to.
So, I mean, you said that you have the certain bands that were easy to work with, and then there were some that were, a little bit harder to work with. Without saying names, I mean, can you allude to some of the bands that were actually kind of like, a little bit more difficult, that you had to push a little bit harder?
When I say difficult, I don't mean like they were difficult humans or unpleasant. It just was logistics that were difficult. Like you look at a band like Slipknot, there was 9 people. So when you have to coordinate things and only 3 people are participating in one and then 3 are participating in the other, because there's so much to get done and they have to break up the band and break up the members in order to get stuff done, and you have to be the person that's traffic copying that can be very stressful. And sometimes you have to be at 2 places at once. So it's not a matter of like a difficulty. It's just logistics and actual execution and getting it done, because you have to be in 2 places at once. I mean, sometimes when we would have like the Loudwire Awards or the Alternative Press Awards or the Revolver Awards, I would have bands show up at the same time to do the red carpet, and that's a line of media, and it's nearly impossible to handle 2 bands at once doing that. And then like I remember once Corey Taylor and Jonathan Davis of Korn were like, both managers were like, hey, Jonathan's here, hey, Corey's here, we need you. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the only person here. I was like, please, somebody help me. So it was just like, I had to get somebody else I work with, and I was like, we had to divide the labor. But it's exciting but fun in the same way. But nobody's ever been like, I've been lucky enough to not have to work with anybody who I'm like, oh my God, they're just horrible human. I'm blessed to say that. But there are times when you do this job and you have to be like Superman. You have to be able to like pull off the impossible feats. So I've never, I've had people make me almost cry, but it wasn't because they were being mean. It was because things were falling apart. I'm like, oh my God, if this doesn't get done, I'm never going to hear the end of it when I get back. So, or just a matter of just making sure if somebody asked me for something, getting it done. So.
I was going to say, I did a lot of being a promoter for many years. Like I kind of know exactly where you're going with all that, because when you have, I don't know, 8 bands on a festival or 10 bands on a festival, and just trying to coordinate with every band and who's going to play first, who's playing last, setting up the merch, who's going to be coming in when, where you guys are parking, the whole 9 yards, promo.
Yeah, what time is sound check? Yeah,
especially when you're going by yourself. When you work by yourself, it's a lot harder than it is working with a team.
Yeah,
now,
people
bands are on board
that.
and they all work together, it's easier.
Yeah, when you have like the wheels are turning, like a lot of times, like I would go to Carolina Rebellion, which is the annual festival in Charlotte, North Carolina, because a very good friend of mine who used to work in the music business and lived in Queens, she and her family moved to North Carolina, and that was always like another friend that works at a radio station was like, let's go see Jess, and we'll go to North Carolina, we'll go to Carolina Rebellion. I'll be like, whoa. When you and Jessica are hanging out at Carolina Rebellion, the tour manager goes, oh shit, Amy's here. All right, here's the press list. I'll see you later. Take care of the press. And when I have 9 bands on a festival, my friends always like, oh, I know it's work weekend. It is. When I get there and they hand me a laminate, they go, okay, so here's our press hour. You can take the band to all the press. And I do it, even though it's a weekend and it's my job. I love it. But my friend, my 2 friends, I tell them, I'm like, guys, Like, it's not a work weekend for you. It is for me. Like, because the tour manager is like, oh, now I can go deal with everything else I need to deal with, and you can deal with the band dealing with press.
Well,
So
speaking of festivals, there's one possibly coming down this way into the year. Will you be in attendance in any way?
what festival is it? Which one is it?
I think it's the Rebel Rock.
When is that?
I think it's supposed to be September, October.
I mean,
I know
I'm so
Trivium and Killswitch are supposed to be on it, like Limp Bizkit and a whole bunch
well,
of
that's like reason enough if Killswitch and Trivium were doing it. And the thing about it is like I have such a hankering for like to see a live show, because like I haven't the last show I saw was I think February 2020, obviously, because we can't go to shows, was this band While She Sleeps that I work with. And like that was my last show. And I'm like, oh my God, I still love going to shows. My friend Adam, who used to work at VH1, we're like show buddies. We'll go see like Bring Me the Horizon 3 times, A Day to Remember and Falling in Reverse. We'll go like to see the 3 local shows, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, I don't care if I have a show every night when shows come back. So if there's a festival in Florida, I might travel for it. So
we'll be more than welcome to bring you, have you come down, and we'll love to hang out with you.
Yeah, I mean, I miss it.
If you show up, we're gonna be there. Okay,
I know. I'll have to be like, I'll check it, and you'll see it pop up online. Like, oh,
because I'm trying to right now. If you haven't paid attention, I'm trying to promote the festival.
I realize, yes, because there was,
Lord Chris.
What is it that the Grinch? She's like,
you guys, the self-help, was that down there too? Because A Day to Remember from Florida, and I think they do self-help was like in a bunch of different cities, and I thought they had one in Florida too, but that was obviously a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Last shows I think like me and Brad both attended. I think it was back in February last year as well. We did was it the House of Blues with our friends from Breathing Theory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those guys are still clawing their way up in the Florida metal scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of bands, now I've noticed since I figure I might as well go ahead and jump on this part. A lot of bands now, like a lot of local bands, have been doing a lot of solo projects or single projects where they're just releasing like one song. I've noticed a lot of some of the national touring bands have been doing the same thing. We're just releasing one song here and one song there rather than a full EP. Do you have any bands that you know of that are doing that right now?
Yeah, a lot of our bands have been doing that. They release it's more of the bands that are like, it's more of an intro thing for those bands. Usually when they have an album coming out, they waterfall it. They'll release like a couple of singles leading into release date. But Ronnie from Falling in Reverse is a perfect example of an artist that I work with, who his last album, Coming Home, Falling in Reverse, their last album came out in 2017, and he has since just released a bunch of singles that have been like bangers and powerhouse hits. He had his first radio #1 with Popular Monster, and it was just a one-off, and it took off, and it's the radio success that he has earned and deserved. And a lot of our bands are doing that. They're not going the full album route. They're just like, Mice and Men just released a new song, and they're going to release a 3-song EP. And it's albums, I think, I like them because I like to listen to a body of work, but I think this works too because it constantly satiates the fans. They're getting new stuff all the time. They don't have to consume it all at once. I think it's easier to find songs that way, because sometimes if you get like, people have short attention spans, you might not listen to side B. You might not get to the songs at the end of the record. And sometimes those are some of the best songs that are buried deeper in a record. So,
well, I've also noticed too that a lot of people are attributing, like these online streaming companies like Spotify, Apple, and stuff like that, as to the reason why they don't put out so much work is because they're gonna put together 8, 9, 10 songs, and people are only gonna stream 2 or 3.
Right.
So, and some of the local bands that we've been talking to, and that's some of the reasons why, they're doing stuff like that. I kind of wondered, what Chris just asked, the same thing was, are the national musicians doing the same thing? And that definitely answered my question. So
yeah, some of them are. It just depends. I think when you have artists that are super prolific though, and they just keep pumping out the songs, and a lot of artists that their songs or their concepts are meant to be in the album format, and that's fine too. I think it's like I don't think that means the album format is dying. I just think people are trying different things in the time that we're living in, and I sometimes it can be harder on the publicity side when there's only one song, because media outlets are like, okay, this is one song, like, is this representative of what they sound like? Is this like a stylistic diversion? So there's lots of other there's challenges to it on both fronts, but I think for people who are looking to consume things quickly, it is, and a younger audience, I think that's fine. But I personally still like to hear a full body of work.
Well, like what I was saying earlier before we got on here about like Howard Jones being in like every other video I've been checking out on YouTube. I noticed like, because like you got Slipknot with Corey Taylor, he did the Stone Sour thing as well, and I kind of like, well, is he quoting the band? What's going on here? Then I did a meet and greet one time with him, and he's a very creative guy. And then I think yesterday I noticed he's doing something else again.
Yeah, he's got his own solo where he's doing CMFT.
Oh, Corey Taylor, yeah. He
just released it. Like what?
He could probably produce an album like 5 minutes after he wakes up every day. Yeah. He's just prolific. The guy never stops. He's better than advertised. He's an amazing human. He's hilarious. He's emotional. He's awesome. And he has a lot of creativity in that brain of his. And it comes out in different ways. And Stone Sour was his pre-Slipknot band. It was called Super Ego before it was called Stone Sour. And it was him and Jim Root and Sean Economaki and Josh. And it's very different than Slipknot, obviously. But I mean, it shows you that Corey Taylor can write a fucking song. I mean, Bother and
Through the Glass.
Through Glass. I mean, that was a multi-format hit that we had, and it was just it just shows you that Corey Taylor, I mean, he's a dynamic artist. I mean, he's a dynamic human being. There's few people in the world like him, but that guy can write a song. I mean, he is just, every time I talk to him, it's just like I feel like it's just something new comes out of him. But it was definitely when Unmasking Them was a very interesting time when Stone Sour first came out in 2002.
I have an idea. It should be like something like as a challenge.
No.
Oh, come on, let me do it. Because I just remembered the guy's name that we were talking about earlier. If you were to put Howard Jones, Matt Heafy, Corey Taylor, and Jarrett Dines into a room together and tell them they have to produce at least 3 songs, they'd probably be done in an hour.
Possibly, I would think so.
Jarrett can play drums, so it's already in.
Yeah. Well, Matt Heafy just released the Dines X Heafy EP where they worked together, which is really awesome, and they were very energized by each other. And I think that just shows you how Matt Heafy is another one who has kind of grown into this creative force. He just always has something going on.
His hair is always changing too. I noticed that he had the long hair, the short hair, sideburns. What's going on?
He's got a lot of different looks. Like when he posts like his Instagram photos where he's like captioned this photo and he's posting all these different looks, I'm like, I've known this child since he was a child because I've been working with him that long, and I don't even remember him having all these looks, but I do. I'm like, oh my goodness,
it's entertaining regardless. I love it.
What's that?
I love the new looks. Every time he comes up with, he's like, name this look.
Yeah, it's definitely, I watch it and I'm like, you look like Joseph Gordon-Levitt in these pictures. I'm like, oh my God. But he's the best. He's another one. I mean, he really, has carved a niche out for himself with Twitch. He knows how to promote himself. He knows how to market himself. He's a smart kid and he's insanely talented.
He's got some guitars out too, doesn't he?
What's that?
He's also launched a guitar line, right?
I think he did too. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'm trying to keep up with it because he has so much stuff going on, and his Twitch. I mean, he embraced Twitch before anybody else did. Like a couple of years ago, I think it was 2016. I remember he was going to Metal Injection had like this series called Taste of Metal where artists would cook with Brian Sau. He's a metal fan who's a chef. He delicious, makes amazing stuff. And they had like Zach Wilde did it. Adam and Jesse from Killswitch did it. One of the Mastodon dudes did it. And Matt Hafey's a renowned foodie. So we're like, we have to have Matt on this show. And Matt came to New York to do press on a Friday. I remember it was like in August, and on Friday night, which is like the worst time to like travel in Manhattan because everybody's trying to get out of the city. And we had done visited Sirius, and then after that we were literally in Times Square, which is, you know, the center of the universe. There's millions of people there all the time, and we were waiting for the Uber to come get us to take us to Brooklyn to go do this show. And 3 people came up to us separately, and we're sitting there on the corner waiting, and somebody's like, yo, is that Matt Hafey? I'm like, okay, all right, there's one person. Okay, somebody saw him. And then 5 minutes later, another guy from like Belgium's like, hey, Matt from Trivium. And then 5 minutes later, right before the Uber came, another guy came up, was like, yo, Matt, can I get a picture? I'm like, I felt like I was there with Robert De Niro. You know, it was like, I was like, Matt, that's how I knew. I was like, Matt Hafey is more famous than I realized that he is.
Yeah, he is. He's traveled so much.
And it's just, he's recognizable because he's got a unique look, but it's like, I was literally, we're in Times Square. It's so fucking busy. I can't even imagine recognizing a face there because there's just so many people. And 3 people came up to get photos with him, and I was like, what planet and Twilight Zone did I just step into?
I literally walked into the Hard Rock one time, going to go see a show. Him and the band were standing there at the doorway, and Matt just like went like, "What's up, man?" And I'm like, just got a big hug from him, like, "Dude, what's up?" And you know, said hi to the guys, and I guess one of the mini drummers. But yeah, it's been an honor to actually get to know that guy from the day one I met him till I can't really talk. I mean, I think was it last year? Somehow he was marking off some medium-sized shirts. I just didn't realize it was medium shirts, but I bought them. I ended up giving them away, but you know, it was cool just to talk to the kid for a minute. You know, say, hey man, seen you for a while. Hope all's well. Same with it after he had the kids.
I know. I always remember like that he's a dad.
His dad and I, we talk occasionally. We'll hit each other up, you know, simplify each other, you know.
Right, of course. Brian Hafey, like I always be like, I'm like, he's a mercenary. I will never mess with him. And he's awesome. Like he was always great to me. And I remember I would tell Matt, I'm like, I would never fuck with your dad.
Every year he's always invited me over for Thanksgiving, you know. As a point, like, dude, I can't yet, man, not yet.
So, all right.
Pause. The awkward pause.
Travel down memory lanes.
Yeah, so many of them.
So with this, obviously with the pandemic and everything that's going on, I mean, has it really impacted you guys' business? I know it kind of has, but I mean, is it really as bad as people have been saying?
Because touring is supposed to be starting up again, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think touring will come back in the late summer, early fall. But for me personally, my business did not experience any downturn or downtick in anything. It actually grew last year against all odds, and I am very thankful and very blessed and grateful, and I never take it for granted that, you know, a lot of people didn't have that experience last year, understandably. But, you know, I literally was working 20-hour days because everybody was home, and it's like nobody's commuting and everybody's dropping emails all day. So we expanded, the company grew last year, and I'm so blessed and thankful for that. And, you know, I love what we do, and I don't want to do anything else. And I want it to keep growing. And I think once touring comes back, like every one of our heads are going to explode, because like people are going to be so eager to go see shows, and it's going to be interesting to see how it changes, because like before the pandemic, like last year, you know, we worked with Beartooth and Motionless in White, and they did a tour together in January and February. And keep in mind, January and February, not the best time to tour because it's fucking cold. It shows get canceled because in most of the country there's ice and snow everywhere. And that tour, every single date was sold out. And I remember Tim, who works with me, we were like, literally, it was a full-time job processing requests for that tour. It was sold out. So we're like, we really don't have any tickets to give because the show is sold out. And there was like 2 media tickets a show. But that, like, back then we had tons of people being like, I just want to shoot the show. Can I just shoot it for my portfolio or shoot it for my website? That stuff is going to change. Like a lot of the photographers that we would set up with photo passes to shoot the show, they're gonna probably the photo pit's probably gonna be significantly reduced capacity wise, and have less people in there. So now it's just gonna be a little harder for some of those smaller guys to kind of like get what they want, and it sucks.
Right.
And hopefully there'll be something where, if they're wearing masks, or maybe they expand that little area in front of the stage to accommodate more media. But it'll be interesting to see when it comes back, but I know I'll be jonesing for a show. I'll be like, somebody needs me to fly to Florida? Sure, no problem. I'll come out.
We got two places for you to stay, either Brad's place or mine, regardless.
I just miss it. I really do. Like when I went to Rock on the Range, or well, now it's called Sonic Temple, but I went to Rock on the Range in 2019, and I just it was like a last minute. It was like, hey, we need you to go out there and cover this. And I literally, like, I don't pack light, but I was like, I took one backpack. I was like, I'm just gonna, like, do it down and dirty, fly out at 4 a.m. and fly back on Sunday afternoon. And I was like really stressed about it, because it was just like, oh my God, my whole weekend's gone. I'm gonna have 4 weeks without a day off, because I have shows the following weekend. And now I'm like, I would kill to have that again, because I miss it so much. I don't, like I said, I love what I do, and I don't mind sacrificing weekends doing what I would probably do anyway, which is go see concerts. I'm just getting paid for it now.
Right on.
I know it sucks to be me.
Yeah, tough job, I swear.
So, aside from the music stuff, I see that your dog, you got a clean bill of health the other day.
He did, yes. He's going to be 11 on February 16th, and bulldog. He's an English bulldog, and they usually have an 8 to 10 year lifespan, but because he's my son, and I take extra good care of him. I take him, I get his blood work done. He has his annual exam. My vet was like, he doesn't have a lump on him. His heart, his lungs are like an ox. So that makes me happy, because if I could get 5 more years out of him, I would chop 10 years off my life, because I love him more than anything.
Oh.
Yes.
So aside from that, I guess, so, you grew up liking heavy metal.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, I had 2 older brothers, and my oldest brother was a rock fan, and so was my mom. They AC/DC, Kiss, Journey, stuff like that. So I was raised on that stuff, like out of pretty much from birth. So
Gotcha.
yeah, my brother used to let me listen to Kiss records with him and AC/DC. So
who were some of your favorite bands whenever you were growing up? Somebody that you would, turn your hairbrush upside down and start screaming into in front of the mirror.
Oh my God. Well, definitely Journey. I always loved Steve Perry and his big nose. I saw Journey when I was like 7.
Wow.
Kiss. Peter Criss is my favorite. And my brother used to play a game where he would, if you wanted to know where I was in the house, all you had to play was Hooligan off Love Gun. You would just start the opening chords of that, and I would come running and start dancing, because it was my favorite Kiss song. And I took it to Peter Criss. I love all Peter Criss stuff. So that's how they would know where I was in the house, by playing that song and get me to come running. And AC/DC, like I went to Catholic school my whole life. So when I was in kindergarten, they used to have an hour. They would let us every day draw, and I used to draw pictures of Brian Johnson with his his Jeff cap and stuff. And I remember my kindergarten teacher, I had written AC/DC on it. When she handed it back to my mom, she's like, she doesn't have the alphabet right. It's ABCD, not AC/DC. And I was like, I got it wrong as a 5-year-old. And when I was in 1st grade, we would have the 8th grade students would come down to our classroom, and you'd have a prayer partner. And my prayer partner was this girl, Donna Briotti. And I remember they would come and talk to you and be like, so what do you like? What are you interested in? We're going to say prayers together. But you would get to know them. They were like your little buddy. And they were like, do you like music? She was like, do you like music? I'm like, yes. She's like, what bands do you like? I'm like, AC/DC and Kiss. And she was like, I have the coolest prayer partner, because she likes the kind of music I like, the kids in 8th grade like. But yeah, my brother was really responsible for that. And I love Joan Jett. Joan Jett is one of my, Pat Benatar, so like all those MTV artists, but Joan Jett is still iconic to me. Her look, her sound, her vibe, everything about her. I just think she's the queen.
It was funny that you said that Peter Criss was your favorite.
Absolute favorite.
Ace Frehley was my guy.
Really?
I remember
so grumpy.
I remember whenever I was growing up, my grandmother, she flipped on I can't remember what show it was, but Kiss was on there. I remember when Ace Frehley just started breaking into his solo and his guitar just like lit on fire and the
Mm-hmm.
sparks coming out at the end, and I'm like, that was so awesome. And then, my grandmother had this huge crush on Gene Simmons,
Oh my God.
So anytime that they were on, we were watching it. So I remember here, you remember the power station, right, Chris, down in Melbourne?
Just a little.
Um, Ace Frehley, he came in and played this little hole in the wall called the Power Station, and I remember getting upstage, front and center, and I remember, I mean, the dude was cool. I mean, yeah, I know that he's had his problems with alcoholism and substance abuses and stuff like that, but I mean,
We
to
all
us in that little
music
club,
massive.
he was bigger, he was larger than life for me. So
Oh, for sure. I can imagine.
Yeah, Ace Frehley actually wasn't he coming around like doing like little side project shows and stuff here and there? And not
Well, I know
recently.
he releases he still releases solo records like through
Yeah,
E1 and stuff too. So
he's
he's
still doing his little thing.
yeah,
A lot of them are, even if they're like solo artists now, they're just still doing their little tours.
a lot of
Yeah.
80s artists you'll
Yeah.
see that are like doing that stuff, like Sebastian Bach and stuff.
Oh,
yeah,
I think
yep.
Buck Cherry's going to be here next month.
That's what
Yeah.
everybody's saying, and I'm kind of like,
Daytona.
how?
Well, it's actually going to be. Well, I saw them open up for. It was the Buck Cherry and I think somebody else. But it was Motley Crue was the main headliner.
Oh my
But
God.
Buck Cherry played, and I was like, not bad. But they had some really good hits. This is about 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah, Buck Cherry. I actually thought their first record was actually really good.
But Cold Chamber was still my all-time favorite back.
Who was Cold Chamber?
Chamber.
Oh yeah.
I was always standing like front stage and just watching the bass player do circles.
Was that Raina or not?
The
Second one.
first one.
Yeah. I worked with Cold Chamber when Nadia was in the band. I still talk to her. She's awesome. And Des, I worked with for many years of many projects. And he's always like, "You're like my fifth sister." I'm like, "We're not related," but Des is like, he is like a big brother to me, though. I love him.
Is he doing anything right now? Because I know he was.
Des?
Yeah.
Devil Driver, and he's managing bands too. He has like a management company, Oracle. I think
He did the Devil Driver thing, but I thought he broke off and did some other stuff. But
no, Devil Driver's still a thing. Some of the guys that were in the band, Kendrick and Berklin left the band, but yeah, he's still doing it.
Cool.
Yeah, I miss Cold Chamber. I mean, it was one of the bands that from the '90s that I really wish that I could have gone and seen them and Dope. I friggin' loved Dope whenever they were.
I think an autographed Cold Chamber CD somewhere.
I remember when I first took the job at Roadrunner, I was telling somebody there, I'm like, I don't like Cold Chamber and I have to work with them, but they were great people. I like they were great to work with. They were great to work with, and I didn't like the music, and I learned to like the music by working with them.
Yeah, it was that really hard, gritty, crunchy sound that really drew me in. But then again, I was a huge Rob Zombie fan,
right?
White Zombie. So
yeah,
and basically, I had a crush on Shania Salt, that the bassist from there. So
I almost bought an ice cream machine because of Cold Chamber.
You bought an ice cream?
I said almost bought one.
Because of the album cover.
An ice cream in your truck,
Oh yeah, the creepy guy driving it.
That Loco song.
Yeah, still not my favorite.
So, but I mean, a lot of the bands from the '90s were, some of my, Cold Chamber, Dope, Limp Bizkit, and stuff like that.
I think everybody listened to Metallica back then too.
Yeah.
Even now.
So I mean, with your background being in like Kiss and AC/DC and stuff like that, Pat Benatar,
love her.
Oh yeah, Pat Benatar was amazing.
She was a total badass. I even liked the Bangles too.
I would love to see Billy Idol.
Yeah.
He's still touring.
He's got a great catalog of hits. I would love to see him live.
Lita Ford is actually playing with a friend of mine, Patrick Kennison.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be the lead guitarist for a band called Union Underground.
Oh, I know that. I remember them.
Texas.
They were signed to Columbia.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Patrick, he actually did an interview with me last year for a different podcast that I had, where he was talking about his stint with oh gosh, with Union Underground whenever they were doing the music for wrestling WWE.
Hmm.
So yeah, he was a pretty cool dude. Him and I stay in touch every once in a while, and he was telling me that they were getting ready to do the cruise tour last year, but that got canceled, I believe,
Hmm.
because of this pandemic. But if I had the opportunity to meet Lita Ford, I think I could just go ahead and just chalk up everything in life.
I'll be standing right behind you, buddy.
So you haven't met her?
But
You ever met Lita?
No.
no, I would love to.
I've met her. She's awesome. Like she's
Rub it
definitely
in.
very unique.
Rub it in, man. Rub it in.
Hey, what? Hey, she's not rubbing it in. She's just telling us what she does for a living, okay? And I
Yeah,
have
right.
I have to appreciate what she
Yes,
does for
I'm
a
just
living.
over here just silently. You don't hear it. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Yeah,
At the
we're
waiting
we're
bar.
definitely we're definitely gonna watch this later on. And we're
We're
gonna
definitely
do the
going to Wayne's World this later.
Wayne's World this one. So
Look at them and they will come.
so one last thing.
Sure.
We're actually like I said, we started this out of labor of love. Whenever we you know uh it was 20 years that I came back to the metal scene. Chris was in it the whole entire time, but we're trying to give back to the metal community here in Florida. So you said that you've had your hand in like festivals and shows and stuff like that. We're thinking about putting together our own Florida Metal Radio Festival, which we would have local bands, and hopefully we have national musicians signed on as well. But is there any pointers that you can give us for being able to obtain this ultimate goal of being able to give back?
So would this be something after when we actually have real shows like in person,
Yeah.
not like a Zoom kind of festival?
No.
Well, it is an undertaking for sure. It depends on, like, obviously you want to have like a headliner so that gets people in the door to see the smaller bands, but that all comes with um insurance and guarantees and setting it
Right.
with an agent. So it is an undertaking. So it probably is going to require even more planning than you already know that it's going to require. So I think it's
Right.
just like, be realistic with maybe a local Florida based headliner, or a headliner that makes sense, and you can kind of build the rest out from there. Have the plan already, like the model. Is it going to be one day? Is it going to be 2 days? Where is it
And
going
we're
to
going
be?
to show up with a backpack.
What's that?
You're going to show up with a backpack because it's going to be on the weekend. You're running
Will
backstage.
will it be like something that can you, and what favors can you kind of pull within your local area? Can you get somebody to donate like catering and stuff like that, or can you get
Right.
somebody
I don't know anything about all that. I used to have as far as sponsorships and donations, food, hotel arrangements, stuff like that. I'm sure we could work with some local business, restaurants, or whatever to get coordinate with that, because I've done that in the past with some of the Mayfest festivals I did in the past, where we would have the bands come to town. If somebody was out of town, more or less out of almost county, to just be the light and sound guy, we would make sure that
Right.
they had hotel and food accommodations,
Mhm.
and of course pay as well. But we try to do our best to help them out. For shows like this, it would definitely be a weekend, whether it's actually an actual stage either there or mobile. We would obtain the actual idea. It's a creative process right now as an idea. I worked with a band called Hellstar out of Texas a couple of years ago, and it's only because they came off a boat that did a festival for the weekend, and we got them on the way home, and they stopped in and did a show for a small guarantee. So if we even had a touring band that came through and they wanted something to do, we got them. But it's just a matter of just making the right contacts to do that. but at the same time, we prefer to have something arranged, more or less.
Yeah, it's just it would be an undertaking, but you know, as long as you know that going in, that's how you can kind of, you know, tackle it, you know, attack it one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Right on.
Even if it was just one band here, one band there, just better than nothing. I mean, I worked with Sliva at Elise Way, Drawing Pool, a couple of the guys just with the Rise Up Angry guys. And that was just, that's how I got to meet a lot of these people, was because I was working with other bands. So
Yeah, it's usually how it works. You know, it's who you know and how you know them.
we'll definitely keep in touch, because you never know who you know to help us.
Yeah, of course. Chances are I know somebody.
I know a guy. I know a guy who knows a guy.
I know the guy who knows the guy who knows the guy.
So we can pretty much guarantee that you're going to block my number and my email later, right?
Yeah, it takes a lot for me to do that.
No, but in regards to that Rebel Rock Fest, I think it is near the end of the year, and if you do decide to come down, it would be an honor to hang out with the weekend. It's because I think, like I said, I think Killswitch Engage and Trivium is definitely playing that weekend. I think Lip Biscuit's on it, and a few others, but I will check it out. It's Rebel Rock. I'm supposed to be at the Citrus Florida Fairgrounds for the weekend.
You know, and just for what it's worth, I know that it's, you know, not much, but you know, dinner is on, you know, Florida Metal Radio. So
Brass band is what he's trying to say.
So you like McDonald's dollar menu, right?
I do. I'm all about that. You know, the vanilla cone and the you know the whatever they sell that's really cheap.
We get you one of those $20 beers. All cup.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and you know, let you go because it's coming up on 10 o'clock, and
Awesome.
we just wanted to thank.
It went by fast because it was a quality conversation.
Definitely appreciate that. Thank you so. Thank you so much for being on the show, Amy.
Thanks for
It's been a
having me.
pleasure talking to you in person. Not so much email anymore, but you know, it's been great conversing with you, and just, you know, even though that it was just casual conversations, it was a great conversation.
I agree. I really enjoyed it, and feel free to drop me an email. It's no big deal.
Yeah, and on my side, thank you for talking. It was just, you know, the Trivium background. You got that. I got that out of the way.
I'm
I was like, oh, somebody knows him. Yes.
All right, everybody. So, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. This has been CMP and Fabulous B with Florida Metal Radio, having Amy Sciarretto on here with Adam Splitter PR. As the immortal Ricky Rackman once said, keep one foot in the gutter, one fist in the gold, keep it real, keep it metal. Fuck yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you.